Mark sat on his apartment floor counting the money he had left after rent. 5 $20 bills. $100. That was it until next paycheck. He'd been working at the warehouse for 3 years. $10 per hour. 40 hours per week. Barely surviving, never getting ahead. Every month was the same. Work, pay bills, have nothing left. The treadmill never stopped. The future looked exactly like the present. That night, scrolling through his phone at midnight, Mark found an online course, Start Your First Online Business. Price, $97. Most people would call it crazy, spending your last $100 on a course when you should save it for food. But Mark had spent 3 years being safe. Safe had kept him exactly where he was. He took a breath, entered his card number, and clicked purchase. $97 gone. $3 left in his account. 18 months later, Mark would be earning $12,000 per month. But that night, he just had $3 and a decision he couldn't take back. Mark's life before the $100 decision was a study in quiet desperation. 26 years old, high school diploma, no college degree because his family couldn't afford it. He'd started at the warehouse right after graduation. It was supposed to be temporary while he figured out his next move. That was 3 years ago. The job paid $10 per hour, which translated to $1,600 per month after taxes. His rent was $750 for a studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. Utilities ran about $120. Phone bill, $65. Car insurance and gas to get to work, $200. That left $365 for food, any emergency, any hope of saving. There was never anything left to save. A car repair would put him in the red for months. Mark watched his coworkers who'd been there for 10, 15, 20 years, still doing the same work, still making barely more than minimum wage. They'd tell him the same thing. Keep your head down, do your time, maybe get promoted to supervisor in 5 years for an extra $2 per hour. The future was a straight line, flat, predictable, trapped. Mark spent his evenings scrolling through social media, watching people his age traveling, starting businesses, building lives that looked nothing like his. He'd tell himself they were lucky, they had money from parents, they had connections. But late at night, he'd wonder, what if it wasn't luck? What if they'd just done something different? That question became an obsession. He started researching online businesses, freelancing, side hustles, anything that could break the pattern. Most required capital he didn't have, thousands to start a business, money for inventory, funds for advertising. But one path kept appearing, digital skills and online services. People were making money with just a laptop and knowledge. The barrier to entry wasn't money, it was knowledge. The course Mark found was called Digital Product Blueprint. It taught how to create and sell information products, ebooks, courses, templates, without needing inventory or upfront investment beyond creating the product itself. The instructor was someone who'd started with nothing and built a 6-figure business in 18 months. Normally, Mark would have dismissed it as a scam. Everyone online was selling a course promising riches. But something about this one felt different. The instructor showed real numbers, real failures, real lessons. He didn't promise easy money or quick results. He promised that if you learned the skills and did the work, you could build income. Mark watched the free preview videos at least 10 times. He read every review. He joined the Facebook group where past students shared their results. Not everyone succeeded. Maybe 30% actually made meaningful money. But 30% of people who tried actually changed their lives. That was better odds than the lottery. Better odds than hoping for a promotion. Better odds than staying exactly where he was. The course cost $97. Mark had $103 in his account after paying all his bills. Spending $97 meant having $6 for the next 2 weeks until payday. $6 for food, gas, everything. It was objectively insane. His rational mind screamed at him to save it, to be smart, to wait until he had more money saved up. But Mark realized he'd been waiting for 3 years. Waiting for the right time. Waiting to save enough money. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting had gotten him exactly nowhere. At 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, Mark entered his debit card information and clicked purchase. The confirmation email arrived. $97 gone. $6 remaining. He opened the course portal and stared at the first lesson, your first product in 7 days. He had $6 in 7 days. He got started. The first week was brutal. Mark worked his 40-hour warehouse shift, came home exhausted, and studied the course for 3 to 4 hours every night. He had $6, which he stretched across 14 days through a combination of ramen noodles, peanut butter sandwiches, and 1 meal per day. He lost 8 pounds. His coworkers asked if he was sick. He was sick of being broke, sick of having no options, sick of the treadmill. The course taught him something crucial in the first module. You don't need a revolutionary idea or unique expertise to make money online. You just need to know something valuable that others are trying to learn, package it clearly, and reach the people who need it. Mark had worked in warehouse operations for 3 years. He knew inventory systems, logistics coordination, safety protocols, efficiency optimization. These were boring, practical skills. But boring and practical meant small business owners who ran warehouses or storage facilities desperately needed this knowledge and had no idea where to learn it. Mark's first product took him 6 days to create: Warehouse Operations Manual, complete system for small storage businesses. It was a 38-page PDF covering everything from receiving inventory to tracking stock to maintaining safety compliance. He included checklists, templates, and step-by-step procedures. He priced it at $47. He had no audience, no email list, no following. The course taught him to start with Reddit and Facebook groups where his target customers gathered. He found a group for self-storage facility owners with 12,000 members. He offered free advice on their operations questions for 2 weeks, building credibility. Then he mentioned his manual in response to someone asking for exactly what he'd created. People bought it in the first 48 hours. $188 in revenue from something he'd created with just his existing knowledge and 6 days of evening work. Mark stared at the Stripe notification showing the payment. He'd just made more profit from his product than he made in an entire week at the warehouse. And he'd created it once, but he could sell it infinitely. The $188 changed everything, not because of the amount, but because of what it proved. Mark had created value from nothing but knowledge he already had. No inventory, no boss, no permission needed. He immediately reinvested the money into learning Facebook ads. He spent $120 on a beginner advertising course and $68 testing ads for his warehouse manual. The ads were terrible at first. He lost the $68 with 0 sales. But the course taught him to see that money as education cost, not failure. He studied what went wrong, adjusted his targeting, rewrote his ad copy, and tried again with his next product revenue. The second product came faster because he understood the process. Safety compliance checklist for small warehouses took him 3 days to create, priced at $27. He ran ads for 3 days with a $50 budget, sold 18 copies, $486 in revenue, minus $50 in ads, equals $436 profit from 3 days of evening work. Mark was still working full-time at the warehouse for $10 per hour. But now he was also building something else, something with no ceiling. Over the next 2 months, Mark created 4 more products: inventory tracking spreadsheets, employee training materials, efficiency optimization guides, safety protocol templates. Each was priced between $27 and $67. Each took him 3 to 5 days of evening work to create. Each sold consistently with minimal advertising because he was solving real problems for business owners who had no other solution. By month 3 after the $100 investment, Mark's products were generating $1,200 per month in revenue. After ad costs of about $300, that was $900 in profit. Not enough to quit his job, but enough to prove this was real. And more importantly, that $900 was revenue from products he'd created once that continued selling while he slept, while he worked his warehouse shift, while he lived his life. He'd decoupled his income from his time. That realization was worth more than the money. Month 4 brought the inflection point. One of Mark's customers, a self-storage facility owner in Texas, emailed him, "Your materials are great, but I need someone to actually implement this system at my 3 locations. Would you consult?" Mark had never consulted before. He had no idea what to charge. The course had a module on high-ticket services. The advice, charge based on value created, not hours worked. Mark asked the right questions. What's it costing you to run without proper systems? The owner calculated inefficiency, lost inventory, safety violations, employee confusion, probably $25,000 per year in waste and lost revenue. Mark offered to implement complete operational systems across all 3 locations for $5,000. The owner agreed immediately, which Mark later learned meant he'd underpriced. But $5,000 for a month of evening and weekend work, while still keeping his warehouse job, was more money than Mark had ever had at once in his life. He delivered the consulting project over 4 weeks, documenting everything so he could turn the process into another product. The owner was thrilled, gave him a testimonial, and referred him to 2 other facility owners. Suddenly, Mark had a waiting list for consulting. He raised his price to $8,000 per project, then $12,000. People kept saying yes because his systems saved them multiples of what they paid him. 6 months after investing his last $100 in that course, Mark's monthly income looked like this. Warehouse job $1,600 per month, digital product sales $2,300 per month, consulting projects averaging 2 per month at $12,000 each equals $24,000 per month. Total monthly income, $28,100. His warehouse salary had become the smallest part of his income. He gave his 2 weeks' notice. His supervisor thought he was crazy. You're walking away from a steady paycheck? What are you going to do? Mark almost laughed. What was he going to do? He was going to keep selling products while he slept. Keep consulting for clients who paid him in a week what the warehouse paid him in a year. Keep building something with no ceiling instead of grinding in something with no future. The first month after quitting his warehouse job felt strange. Mark had gone from someone with a boss and a schedule to someone who controlled his own time. The psychological adjustment was harder than the work itself. He'd been conditioned for 3 years to exchange hours for dollars, to ask permission for time off, to accept limits. Now there were no limits except the ones he created. He structured his new life intentionally: product creation mornings, client work afternoons, marketing and business development evenings. He worked 50 to 60 hours per week, more than the warehouse, but the nature of the work was different. He was building assets, not trading time. Each product continued generating revenue long after he created it. Each client project led to referrals and testimonials that brought more clients. But Mark knew he was still trading too much time for money with consulting. The one-on-one projects paid well but didn't scale. He could only handle 2 to 3 per month before hitting capacity. To grow beyond $30,000 monthly, he needed to leverage his time differently. The solution came from his consulting experience. He'd implemented systems at a dozen facilities now and noticed he was solving the same problems repeatedly. What if he turned the entire implementation process into a program? He created Warehouse Systems Implementation Program, an 8-week online program that taught facility owners to implement everything themselves, with group coaching calls, templates, video training, and email support. Instead of doing the work for them for $12,000 each, he'd teach them to do it themselves for $3,000. He could serve 10 clients in a cohort instead of 1 at a time. First cohort, 8 people enrolled. $24,000 in revenue for 8 weeks of teaching via Zoom, significantly less intensive than one-on-one consulting. The program participants got 90% of the value for 25% of the price. Mark got the same revenue for less time plus the ability to scale. Second cohort, 15 people, $45,000. Third cohort, 22 people, $66,000. He was now earning more in 8 weeks of group programs than he used to earn in 2 years at the warehouse. The $100 course had taught him to create products. His first products had taught him to sell. Consulting had taught him high-value services. And now he'd combined everything into a scalable model that worked while he designed the life he actually wanted. 9 months after the $100 investment, Mark's business had evolved into something he barely recognized. Monthly revenue averaged $75,000 to $90,000 from multiple streams. Digital product sales at steady $5,000 to $7,000 monthly. One-on-one consulting with 2 high-ticket clients per month at $15,000 each equals $30,000. Group implementation program running quarterly with 25 to 30 participants at $3,000 each equals $75,000 to $90,000 every 3 months, or $25,000 to $30,000 averaged monthly. Affiliate commissions from tools and software he recommended to clients at roughly $3,000 monthly. After business expenses, software subscriptions, advertising, contractor support, taxes, Mark was netting approximately $45,000 to $55,000 monthly. His annual income would be somewhere between $540,000 and $660,000. Less than a year earlier, he'd made $19,200 per year at the warehouse. The money was surreal, but the freedom was more valuable. Mark worked 25 to 30 hours per week now. He took Fridays completely off. He'd moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood. He'd bought a reliable used car with cash. He'd built an emergency fund of $30,000. He'd started investing $15,000 monthly in index funds. But the most meaningful change was psychological. Mark had learned something that most people never discover. You're not paid for your time, you're paid for the value you create. His warehouse work created minimal value per hour, so he was paid minimally. His digital products created value for hundreds of people simultaneously, so they generated revenue continuously. His consulting created massive value for individual businesses, so clients paid premium prices. His group programs created substantial value for many people at once, so they generated significant revenue efficiently. Once you understand that value, not time, is the real currency, everything about money and work changes. You stop asking, how much per hour? And start asking, how much value can I create? You stop trading time and start building assets. You stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an entrepreneur. The transformation wasn't without challenges and mistakes. In month 10, Mark made a decision he'd later regret. He launched a high-ticket mastermind program priced at $15,000 for 6 months of intensive coaching and implementation support. Only 3 people enrolled. $45,000 in revenue sounded good, but the program required enormous personal time, individual attention, constant availability, customized solutions. He was essentially back to trading time for money at a premium rate, but still trapped by capacity. The program ran for 6 months and was successful for the clients, but Mark realized he'd built himself a high-paying job, not a scalable business. He didn't launch it again. Instead, he focused on the models that scaled products and group programs. But the mistake taught him something valuable about business design. Not all revenue is equal. You can make money in ways that trap you or in ways that free you. Choose carefully. Mark also faced imposter syndrome throughout the journey. Who was he to teach warehouse operations? He'd only worked in a warehouse for 3 years. What made him qualified to charge 5 figures for consulting? These thoughts would surface, especially when things went well. But he learned to reframe them. His clients weren't paying for his credentials or years of experience. They were paying for solutions to their specific problem. He knew how to solve those problems because he'd lived them, created systems for them, and proven those systems worked. Value wasn't about having the most experience or the longest resume. Value was about solving problems effectively. Another challenge was managing growth. At one point, Mark had so many clients and program participants that customer support became overwhelming. He was spending 20 hours per week answering the same questions repeatedly via email. The solution: he hired his first employee, a virtual assistant, for 20 hours per week at $22 per hour. Then he created a comprehensive FAQ database and video library addressing common questions. Support time dropped from 20 hours to 5 hours weekly while customer satisfaction increased. Learning to delegate and systematize was a skill the warehouse had never taught him, but building a business demanded it. 1 year after the $100 investment, Mark did something that felt both symbolic and necessary. He went back to the warehouse. Not to work, but to visit. He'd stayed in touch with a few coworkers, and one had invited him to lunch. Walking back into that building felt surreal. The smell of cardboard and industrial cleaning products, the fluorescent lights, the concrete floors, the time clock. 12 months earlier, this had been his world, his future, his prison. Now it was just a building. His former coworkers asked him what he was doing now. Mark tried to explain digital products, online programs, consulting, but he could see the skepticism in their eyes. It sounded too good to be true. One coworker, Daniel, pulled him aside. "Man, be honest with me. Is this one of those internet scams? Selling courses to people about selling courses?" Mark understood the cynicism. A year ago, he would have thought the same thing. "I don't sell courses about making money," he explained. "I sell systems for warehouse operations, the actual work we do here, to business owners who run facilities. I package knowledge they need into products and programs. It's not a scam. It's just a different business model than working by the hour." Daniel seemed interested but unconvinced. Mark sent him a message later. "If you ever want to learn what I did, I'll teach you for free. Not to sell you anything. Just because you're a friend and I was exactly where you are a year ago." Daniel never took him up on it. Neither did any of the other coworkers. Mark realized that most people don't want to change. They want to complain about not changing. They want transformation to be easy, risk-free, guaranteed. They want the results without the uncertainty, the sacrifice, the $6 weeks, the late nights after exhausting shifts. Mark understood. He'd been there. The difference was he'd gotten desperate enough to accept uncomfortable truth. Staying exactly where he was would hurt more than taking a risk. That $100 represented a choice, not between success and failure, but between trying and staying trapped. Most people choose trapped because it's familiar. Mark had chosen to try because familiar had become unbearable. 18 months after the $100 investment, Mark's business looked completely different than it had even 6 months earlier. He'd hired a small team, a full-time operations manager who handled program coordination and client communication, 2 part-time content creators who helped produce training materials and marketing content, a virtual assistant who managed customer support and administrative tasks. Total team overhead, $9,000 monthly. But the team freed Mark to focus on the highest value activities, creating new programs, strategic partnerships, and business development. Revenue had stabilized at a consistent $90,000 to $110,000 monthly. After team costs, expenses, and taxes, Mark was personally netting $60,000 to $75,000 per month. His annual personal income, $720,000 to $900,000. From $19,200 per year to potentially $900,000 per year in 18 months. A 47 times income increase from a $100 course and the willingness to risk everything on himself. But more meaningful than the money were the options it created. Mark started angel investing in other online entrepreneurs, small amounts, $5,000 to $10,000, to help people at the starting point where he'd been. One person he invested in was a single mother working 2 retail jobs, who'd spent her last $85 on the same course Mark had taken. She reminded him so much of himself that he not only invested but mentored her weekly. She built a business teaching retail managers customer service systems. 6 months later, she quit both jobs and was earning $8,000 monthly. His course instructor, the one who'd created the $97 program that changed Mark's life, reached out. He'd watched Mark's journey through the private student community. He asked Mark to become an affiliate partner and create a case study of his success to inspire other students. Mark agreed, and his story became one of the featured success examples in the course marketing. Students started reaching out. "I saw your story. If you can do this from a warehouse, I can do it from my situation." Mark created a simple resource page sharing everything he'd learned. The exact products he'd created, his pricing strategy, his marketing methods, his mistakes. All free. No upsell. Just paying forward the knowledge that had transformed his life. 2 years after the $100 investment, Mark published a post in the course's private Facebook group. It was titled, 2 years, $100, Everything Changed. He shared his complete journey. The $6 weeks, the late nights, the failed ads, the first sales, quitting the warehouse, the mistakes, the growth, the current numbers. He included a photo of himself holding a printed copy of his original course purchase confirmation from 2 years earlier. The post went viral within the community. Over 3,000 comments, hundreds of people sharing their own journeys, some just starting, some months in, some years ahead building 6- and 7-figure businesses. The common thread, they'd all made a decision to invest in themselves when it wasn't comfortable, when they didn't have extra money, when it would have been easier to stay stuck. Mark realized that the $100 hadn't been the real investment. The real investment was believing he could create value, that his knowledge mattered, that he didn't need permission from an employer to build a better life. Money is just a tool, mindset is the foundation. The business continued growing. Mark launched a software tool to accompany his training programs, a warehouse management system designed specifically for small facilities. It took 6 months and $45,000 to develop, but it created a new revenue stream of $20,000 monthly in subscription fees. He'd gone from selling knowledge to selling software, from service provider to product company. The evolution never stopped. His monthly income was now consistently over $120,000. Annual income projected at over $1.4 million. But Mark found himself working less, not more. 20 hours per week focused on strategy and creation. The rest of his time belonged to him. He traveled for a month working from different cities. He bought a house with cash, something that would have taken 30 years of warehouse wages. He invested heavily in index funds and real estate, building wealth that would compound for decades. But the thing that surprised him most was how normal it all felt now. The extraordinary had become ordinary. The impossible had become his baseline. That's what transformation does. It redefines your normal.